Okay, let's get started. Hi, everyone on the live stream. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to our Google Supplier Knowledge Sharing session. Today, we'll be mostly talking about Ariba, a few other things, but that will be our focus for today. We can move on to the next slide, please. We are so excited to have our panel of experts on the line today to be sharing tips and tricks and providing live demonstrations and also answering your questions once we get to the Q&A. So big thanks to our presenters that are on the line. Next slide, please. In terms of our agenda, we will provide an overview of our supplier journey, and then we'll move into some more specifics and detailed sections around how to enroll as a new supplier, and then what that looks like as an existing supplier, and how you manage that account on an ongoing basis. Then we will talk a little bit about Ariba Enablement, Ariba Invoicing, and we'll wrap up with our Q&A. And again, today's objective is to help you better understand these activities. It's to help you up-level and upskill. If you are a supplier that is working with Ariba, working with us with no problems or issues, this session might not be the session for you today because it sounds like you're probably more advanced and things are going well. This session is really for those that are new or that are having some trouble and want to get a little extra face time with us around these processes. Next slide, please. A few housekeeping notes before we dive in. So we've talked about the Q&A portion of the call a couple times now, so we do want to call out where you can find the ability to ask those questions. So the site that you use to register and join the live stream, if you scroll down, we'll have a Q&A section. A colleague of ours has already posted a link to find translated materials if you want to follow along in your preferred language. And that's also where we can engage and get your questions to answer later on in the session. Next slide, please. A few more housekeeping things before we move on. Again, you can go ahead and ask questions anytime. We are documenting those, and the questions that we don't get to today, we'll make sure that we compile into an FAQ of sorts and distribute after. So please ask any and all questions in that Q&A widget. Once we get towards the end, we will answer as many live as we can. The other thing we want to call out is the session is being recorded. So if you want to get that recording and play back, rewatch, we're also going to be adding subtitles and captions to the recording to make that a little bit more accessible for a global supplier. So all those good things will be coming soon, probably early next week. So keep an eye out for that communication when we send out the recording and some of the documentation that we're going to put together. And then lastly, when we do send out that recap email, we'd love to hear your feedback. We want to host more of these sessions, and your feedback will help us improve on those. Next slide, please. So let's jump into a couple overview slides before we dive into the details. So next slide, please. So like I mentioned earlier, we do want to kind of outline that end-to-end supplier journey to orient you when we start talking about some of the sub-process areas. So one quick caveat about this journey, about this process, is while we try to standardize it as much as we can, this will look slightly different depending on various factors, namely where you're located or who you do business with, based on country and regional requirements, and also some of the business areas that you work with at Google. They may have certain business requirements that may not be a global requirement. So just keep that in mind as we talk through some of these things. The first step in the process for all suppliers that want to do business with Alphabet Google is to complete that initial enrollment process. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail very soon, but we do this through one of two tools, either Ariba or an exception tool called Embark. And that's that one-time process of registration and providing all that information so you can be in our system and get paid. The second step, once enrollment is complete, is receiving the PO from us. So that does come through automatically in email. And the first one you get from us is really, really important because it acts as a prompt for you to get set up on the Ariba network for the downstream activity of invoice and payment if you're eligible to use it based on your country requirements and regulations. So that brings us to that third step of invoice enablement. Enablement is a fancy term. It often gets confused with enrollment, but it really just means creating and setting up your Ariba network account so that you can receive POs and invoice against them on the Ariba network on that platform that we use. So once you get all set up with your account, then you can begin to transact. That's the ongoing activity of you continuously receiving new POs and be able to invoice against them. And that all happens in that Ariba network platform that we'll demo and deep dive into in just a minute. And then lastly, on our end comes the payment process. The last thing I want to call out here on the slide is this concept of account management. It's super, super important. It kind of gets lost in translation when we're looking at some of the other forefront activities. But this is the ongoing maintenance of the initial information you provided during enrollment. That information has to be kept current and needs to be on some sort of consistent cadence of looking at it to make sure that contact information, location, bank account, tax, none of that has changed over time. That's one of the biggest triggers for payment disruption is outdated information in our system, and that all has to be self-managed by our suppliers. Next slide, please. And then last slide before I hand off is another key important call out is really understanding the difference between Ariba Enrollment and the Ariba network. They often get confused for the same thing, and while they're very much interrelated and obviously from the same the product line, they are different and nuanced, and we want to call that out. So when we talk about Ariba Enrollment, again, remember, it's that first step in the process. And it's the first time when you're onboarding as a brand new supplier, providing all that awesome information for us. And then there's the ongoing activity of the account management that I just talked about. On the flip side, you've got the Ariba network that also has a one-time activity called enablement that we just talked about, registering the account for the purpose of receiving POs and invoicing. And then once that is complete, you're able to transact on that ongoing basis. So again, connected but different, and really important to understand as you're going through this journey what these different modules mean. Next slide, and I'm going to hand it over to Carl on the team to walk us through the enrollment and account management process in more depth.
Thank you, Eliza. Hello guys, I know you don't have the whole day for this session, so let's get started. So in enrolling a supplier in our system, we have two tools. This is the SAP Ariba and the Embark tool. And in standard process, we use SAP Ariba in enrolling a supplier in our system. It is an e-procurement tool provided by SAP, and currently Google uses this tool for purchasing related activities and to gather supplier information. In this case, Ariba is used to enroll standard and non-individual supplier. On the other hand, for supplier that are exempt in using Ariba, we use Embark tool for that one. What is Embark? So when you say Embark, Embark is an internal tool used to gather information and to enroll a supplier also. But the only time that we use Embark, first one is if the supplier is an individual or a sole proprietor type of organization. Second one is part of the Ariba exemption process. Third one is those supplier experience error in Ariba which cannot be resolved within 5 to 7 business days. And also we use Embark for those supplier that refuse and enrolling through Embark with valid reason and justification. In that case, your Google point of contact needs to raise a ticket to the P2P help at google.com for the details. Next slide, please. So even though you're enrolled using Embark, you'll need to submit your invoice through Ariba network. And for those supplier with country or regional requirements that preventing them from using e-invoicing, they still need to use Ariba enrollment as long as they're not part of the exemption process. Next slide, please. So this is the key step process in enrolling a supplier in Ariba. To initiate the enrollment process in Ariba, your Google point of contact will send us a supplier request form requesting you to enroll in our system. So once we receive that request, my team will check if you have any duplicate records in our system and do the full-time employee checking before we send the invitation link. So when you receive the email invitation link, you need to access the link embedded on that email to redirect you in the Ariba platform. So it will prompt you to the Ariba platform automatically, and that's showing login or sign up. So log in if you already have an existing account in Ariba, or sign up if you don't have one yet. So once you're done, it will automatically prompt you in the Ariba proposal and questionnaire, which is a different platform in Ariba used by Google to complete the enrollment process. So under the Ariba proposal and questionnaires, there are two forms that you need to complete or fill out. First one is the registration questionnaire. The next one is the tax questionnaire. Under the registration questionnaire, it will ask you to provide your company or Google contacts, your primary address, and lastly, your banking information. Under your tax questionnaire, it will ask you to provide your company details and legalities, such as tax IDs, primary address, tax exemptions if you have one, and legal and business name based on your tax form. So once you submit all of the forms, our team will validate and review all of the information you just provided within 3 to 7 business days, and you will just receive a notifications once you're enrolled. Next slide, please. So for the embark, we have two options to initiate the enrollment process. First one, the supplier will initiate the enrollment process or the enrollment itself by reaching out to their Google point of contact. Second one is their Google point of contact will initiate the enrollment on behalf of the supplier. So once we receive that information, the supplier will receive a confirmation from us also. Next slides, please. Next slides, please. Thank you. So here are some couple of tips to make the enrollment process easier. First one, confirm the right tool. So it is really important that your Google point of contact know which tool you are going to use. It is either Embark or Ariba. Next one is plan ahead. It is better to plan ahead and provide all of the information needed for the enrollment process to avoid any delays. Come prepared. So if you have any questions about the process and in the questionnaire also, you can just directly go to the Supplier Help Center to get all of those answers. Then regularly check in. So this is only applicable to account management. So it means you already enrolled in our system. So if you have any updates in your account like business name, addresses, contacts, and even banking information, please let us know and send us an email through p2phelp@google.com or update the information in your ends using the Ariba proposal and questionnaires to avoid any payment rejections or disruptions. Understanding terminology. So Ariba enrollment is different from an enablement process, okay? So enablement process will only comes in when the supplier is already registered in the system and when your Google point of contact raise up POs. 5, support. So if you're stuck along the process and you need some help, you can just set or book a meeting through GVC office hours. Me and personally and my team will be there to provide any assistance to you. And to go over tax tips, we have Ms. Eman here with us today.
Hi everyone, good day. And this is Eman for the tax part of the registration process in Ariba or Embark. So just a few tips when it comes to registering your information. Provide the correct tax information. That's very important. And the common misconception here is that you only need to provide the tax information based on your country of tax residency. Later, you can see that when navigating in the tax questionnaire, you will be asked for the country of tax residency, and at the same time, you will be asked as to what countries in Google will you be contracted or transacting with. So those combination of countries needed to be populated in the tax questionnaire so that we can generate the right questions for you and for you to fill out the tax compliance requirement per country that you will be doing business with. Now, an additional note for suppliers, entities, or individuals located outside the US who will be doing business with Google US entities. We typically initiate the W-8 collection process for this, and there may be a separate outreach from our team going to your main point of contact to collect this information. We also have self-serve resources in the Supplier Help Center. And please do watch out in this resource because oftentimes we get this updated based on the recent developments in the tax landscape globally. And if you need support, we can arrange a call. You can send a ticket to P2P Help and we'll be there to assist you. Now I'm turning it over to Carl for a live demonstration.
Thank you for that, Eman. So for the sake of this session, I'll show you what information you need to fill out under the registration questionnaire. So let's say that you already accessed the invitation link and prompt you to the Ariba proposal and questionnaire. So as you can see, we have two forms under the Google LLC tab. So for the let's just click the registration questionnaire for now. Okay. Okay. It's kind of slow. So here in this section, so all of the information here are just pretty straightforward. All you need to do is just to acknowledge and fill out all of those required field in this section. So for this one, for just like this one, the business location. If you're part, the second one is if you're part of the diverse program of Google. Next one is the terms and condition also, and the primary contact email for this account. And the most important thing here is the PO email address, the one who will receive the VOs. And if you're interested in early payment offers, you can just click yes, but it will cost you additional cost for this matter. Next one is if you're going to under the ad site details, under the ad site details in this section, this is where you're going to provide your business address, remittance email, and your banking information. So all you have to do is just to click the ad site, and here choose the site number as mentioned as above. So site one. So for this one, for an example, your primary address is currently located in US. So all you have to do is just look and select for US. Okay. So here, just populate all of the required field. This one and this one. Uh, okay, and the zip code and the remittance email address. So for every country, we have a specific banking guidelines. For example, this is for domestic transactions, and your bank is located currently in United States. So for the United States country, we only ask them to provide account holder name, bank routing number, and the account number only. That is the only information required for those in US. But if you don't have any but if you're currently located in other country, all you have to do is just to click the specific country here. And if you don't have any knowledge about what information you need to provide, you can just click this link and it will redirect you to the source help center. Then does your accept multiple currency? Then the most important thing also, you need to provide your bank attachment or your bank letter, and also the payment authorization contact email and your Google point of contact. So once it's done, all you have to do is just to click save, and don't forget to submit entire response, and that's it. And and now let's move on to the enablement process, which will be presented by Flora.
Thank you, Carl. So Ariba Network is our preferred channel to receive invoices. So let me walk through how to be enabled in Ariba Network. So first, you will be receiving a PO through email. So that is the email that you provided during your enrollment process, like Carl just mentioned. And on that PO, your first PO, there's a link to register Ariba Network. Once you click on that link, you'll take to your web page to process the order. And then if it's the first time with Ariba Network, then you will need to register and create a username and password. But if you already have a Ariba Network, you have option to log into your existing account and then accepting the connection with Google. And the third step, if you haven't completed any enrollment process, which Carl just mentioned earlier, so finish the enrollment process first before your enablement. And then once you register, you can also configure the setup by your internal leads from your organization. And you can also add additional PO sharing email. I'll present the demo after the slides so you can know how to configure the PO sharing emails. And step 3, you're ready to submit invoices against PO through Ariba Network. And then next slide, please. On the next slide, there's also some screenshot on how this first PO you receive and how to process the order. And then you can also refer the articles in this link. So it will have an invoice requirement by your country, and it's based on your BO2 country. And then on the next slide, we'll tell some difference between the standard account versus enterprise account. So I want to highlight a couple items here. So first, it's your choice to choose which type of account fits you the best, whether standard or enterprise. And then standard account is usually free. And then enterprise comes with a fee, but it has based on your transaction level and then the subscription level. And then enterprise account also give you more advanced functionality, such as reporting, transacting with EDI, and then CMCL. And also you can use as CSV upload. And then there's also a lot of dedicated support from Ariba team. You have any problem when you are transacting through the enterprise account. So again, you are not required to register any particular type of account, but some suppliers choose to do that based on the needs and then based on the historical volume and transaction, and then leveraging the certain functionality that's only available on the enterprise account. And you can also see the link on this slide to see the details about different accounts. And now on the next slide, let me also walk you some best practice and tips. So first, if you want to check the status of your enablement, you can confirm with your Google counterparty to check your enablement status. And then if you haven't received your first PO, you can also check with your counterparty to do that. But once you receive your first PO, the first person who get the PO is very important role. So because you will be the only one to enable your Ariba. But once it's enabled, then you can add others later. So the people who first enable will be the system administrator. And then it's a very important role for that person to create an account, which is defaulted. And then you can also submit a service request if your admin moved to another org or move to another company. Then you can submit a service request with Ariba to change your system admin. And then during the demo, I'll also show you how to find the admin and how to change the admin. And then also, if you want to add additional users to view the PO and then to submit invoices, there's also option in the settings. I'll demo in a few minutes to share how to add additional users within your organization. So now let me start with a demo for the Ariba network. So this, once you log into your account after you finish all the enablement, you can having this web page. And then I want to highlight the configuration. Is on the right side, you'll be seeing your name, initials, and then you're seeing your emails account. And then on the number 4 button is contact admin. So if you connect it, you will be seeing who is your admin of your Ariba network, and then what's email address and cell phone number. And then for some reason, if you want to change your admin, you can click on this question mark on the help button, and then it will take you the steps to how to change the system admin. And then another feature on the demo is the company profile. So for certain countries like India, Malaysia, and then Singapore, to meet the compliance requirement, you'll need to add your legal profile. And then this is the section additional company addresses. This is a section where you will put in the legal profile. And then another important configuration is going back to the home page. On the setting, there's also some settings on the user. So this is where you can add additional users. First, you can add the different roles, whether it's admin or uploader or PO creator, PO receivers, and then you can add users and then assign the user to different role here. And then you can also manage your notification. So where we see the most common ones are for receiving the POs. So on the notification network, and then there's the electronic order routing. So one thing to keep in that is this: if you want the multiple PO receivers, you can put a comma between the emails. So this is not just only one email you can put it here. You can put multiple emails with comma. Then multiple people can receive your POs. A similar thing with the catalog and then the invoicing as well. You can also adding additional emails to see the invoice status change if it's getting posted and getting paid. Okay, so that's the settings I want to highlight it, and then let's go back to the slide to cover the invoicing part. Okay, so once you have the Ariba registered, then you're ready to submit invoice through the Ariba network. So let me highlight some benefits of invoicing through Ariba network. So first, your invoice will be processing much faster than the emails or hard copies. Since Ariba invoicing have some built-in validation rule, so it's very less likely to run into any exceptions. And then also it's very less likely to be rejected compared with other channels like emails or hard copy. And then we build it to meet the local compliance requirements. And then you can also see your status of your invoice, whether it's getting paid or getting rejected. That you can connect with your Google counterparty if it's rejected. And there's also rejecting reason you can connect with the Google counterparties. And here are also some tips to ensure your invoices are accepted. So the first one is you always want to send invoice after your goods are received or invoice provided. And then make sure that no future dated on your invoices, and then using the actual date when the service is rendered, not the first quoted date. And then lastly, you also want to keep your information like the bank information and tax information up to date, so it can be paid without being rejected or running into any errors. So next slide will also cover what's the valid and complete invoices. So first, you want to have the right reference. The most important reference is PO number, because we are using the PO line, and also the PO line number if you have multi-line PO. So you want to make sure that include your invoice number as well. If you have a contract or SFW, please also put there as a reference. And also you want to include the following detail like your name, supplier name, and then what's a Google entity, whether it's Google LLC or other entities. Your total amount of your invoice to be charged. And then if you have a material PO, then also be sure to put Google's part number, not the supplier ones, because Google part number is the one we use for validate the invoices against the PO. And then also show the itemized cost if needed. And then also make sure you have invoice data matching your PO data, because that's also one validation on the AP processing team. Pay attention to the bill to address and the ship to address as well. And then also the item description, price, and then currency. So again, all those fields should match with your PO, and then we'll be validating those fields. And then you also want to make sure that it's including the right amount tax based on your tax compliance of your country. And then lastly, invoice should be in a PDF format unless you have a country-specific requirements. I know some Latin countries will require like XML as tax compliant invoices, but most of the cases will be PDF. Last but not least, submitting your invoice through just only one channel. One channel means I want to emphasize that submitting through multiple channels like emails and the Ariba network this will not expedite your process. It will not be paid faster. Instead, this duplicate invoice will trigger additional review, which will delay your processing and payment. So again, submitting through the Ariba network will be processed much faster. And then if you need any help at any time, you can reach out to p2phelp@google.com for any questions. So let me also demo the invoice processing. So when I go back to the main page, I'll first find the PO I received. You can either search for a PO by by the name, and if you know the exact number of the PO, you can also type in the PO here. And then after you search, you can click on the PO. And once you receive the PO, you want to make sure that you review the PO, make sure all the information like from, to, and then the total amount are correct, and payment term are correct as well. And then once you are reviewing the PO, you can start to create invoices. So there are 3 options on the create invoices. Choose the standard invoices if you create a regular invoice. And first step, you can put the invoice number that's from your organization, and then invoice date as well. And then put your supplier tax IDs. And the most information are populated already from PO. You just need to verify if there's any changes. And then also your tax ID, tax ID are pre-populated, and also the Google Tax ID. And then when you move down the line item options, if you receive a multi-line PO, then you can choose to either invoicing both line or just one line. If you, for example, only need to invoice one line, which is the first line, you can put it. You can like uncheck the box include. But if you do need both lines, then put the include on both lines. So let's take one example. For example, if I have $200 for the first line, USD, and then for the second line, if I invoice for 100 USD, and then you can hit the update, then the subtotal will be automatically updated. And then for certain countries, if tax is required, how to include taxes. On the bottom of the the page is a line item actions, and then you can add tax to any of the item. But first, you want to select which line item needs to have tax. So for example, I'll just choose one. The first one needs a tax, and then I'll put the tax here. And then you can put a tax rate, for example, 5%. And then the tax amount will be auto-calculated. And then also will require for attachment the PDF. So it's similar on the line item actions, there's attachment. So you click on the attachment, and then it will, so first you need to choose which line item you want to put the attachment. And then you can put the attachment here. And then you will be able to choose a file from your local, and then hit attachment. And make sure your attachment do not exceed 100 megabytes. And then once you put the attachment, you can hit next. And then here you can double check and confirm your invoice again to make sure everything looks good. And then after everything good, you can hit submit. Okay, so this is how you can submit in invoices. Now let me hand it back to Eliza to go through the support and resources.
Hi again, everyone. Yes, so we are going to close off with our last slide before moving to Q&A, which is our support and resources slide. And as you can see, there are a whole host of links here on this slide. In the interest of time, we won't go through each and every one, but just know they are here for your reference. These are sort of the key, most important ones to know. Most of these will point you to our Supplier Help Center where there's more information, but we thought these ones are worth calling out. And then the last thing of note on this slide, and the most important thing, is if you are stuck, if you have a problem or a question, our standard support line or help desk is at the bottom here. It is p2phelp@google.com. And that is going to wrap up the content for today, and we will move over to Q&A now. So we're just going to pull up our panel of experts to help us answer all these questions, and then we'll get started. All right, so the first question is, as a company who is already an Ariba Network customer, I'm unsure on what is new changing for me going forward. So I can actually take this one. I think this is alluding to just the purpose of the training and if there's anything new that's changing or different and making sure that you're prepared for that. The good news is nothing, we're not introducing anything new here. This is functionality and tooling that's been around for some suppliers since 2019, but it's been sort of a slow rollout for some suppliers. So we're offering more sessions, again, just to give suppliers the opportunity to come and ask questions live and get help on some of the core processes that we've had around for a while now. So nothing new, nothing's changing. Just offering more help. That's all. So next question. How do I know who my network administrator is? My network administrator has moved to another role, so how do we update ours? And Flora, I think you called this out in your demo, but maybe just to reiterate that process.
Yeah, sure. So how to know your network administrator is on your user, and then you can, on the right side, you can click on your profile and then contact administrator. That will take you who is administrator. And then for some reason, if your network can move to another company or another role, then you can click on the question mark, which take you to a help desk for Ariba team. And then Ariba, you can submit a service request with Ariba team, and then they can help you to update the admin.
Great. Thanks, Flora. Okay, next question. When mentioning updating information for your account management that I talked about, Carl and I talked about earlier on, how often should information such as tax information and banking information be updated? So Carl, maybe that's something that you could reiterate. I think you mentioned it, but we'll say it one more time.
Yeah, for that one, no need to update time to time unless there are some changes in your company details or your information like banking details, address, or company name to avoid any payment disruptions.
Perfect. Thanks, Carl. All right. Next question, please. So do I have the choice to not use the Ariba system and continue to simply email my invoices into Google? So Flora, that one will come to you.
Yes, so Ariba is our preferred channel to use to submit invoices, and it has a lot of benefits I just shared. And then we would like you to use Ariba instead of emails, because emails, a lot of time we have a lot of exceptions, resolutions that are delaying your payment option. So we strongly ask you to use Ariba, which is our preferred channel.
Perfect. Thanks, Flora. Next question, please. If we are billing for labor, material, and tax on our invoice, do we need to add separate line items in the invoice submission, or can we lump them all into one line? Flora, back to you.
Yes. So short answer is for each PO line, you have each invoice. And then you can never have a multi-line if you only have one line PO. So your invoice always need to match with PO. So if you have details, you can put those material or labor details or billing sheets into the PDF format. So your invoice approvers can use that as a reference for details. But when you submit it online, if you only have one line PO.
Perfect. Great. Next question, please. Can I use the same Ariba account for several companies within our company? So, for example, company AB and company XY, both the same company. I think, Carl, this is from a enrollment perspective, so I'll hand it over to you.
For in that case, no, we can't. We can't do that because every country we have tax requirements. So it is basically we need to enroll them separately in the system.
Perfect. Next question, please. Can the PO contact and the point of contact be two different people? I think this one will go over to Flora, if that makes sense.
Yes. So on the notification, you can set out different people to receive the POs and then the invoices. So the point of contact can be the admin or can be anyone, but your admin can be only one person. But someone to receive PO like a demo, you can put a comma between the emails to receive the POs.
Okay, perfect.
So the short answer is yes.
Great. Okay, next. How do I set up email notifications for invoice and payment notifications? I think we covered this a couple, at least in the demo, but maybe we'll cover it one more time. So back to Flora.
Yes, so that's what I share on the demo on the settings. And then you can go to the notification, and the notification, you can set up different notification for invoice, PO, and payment.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question. For Google payment notifications, where can we change the email recipient contact? And I think, Carl, maybe this is one that will go to you.
Yeah, just like what I said earlier, guys. So we have under the Ariba proposal and questionnaire, we have the registration questionnaire. So if every time you have an update regarding with your contacts, you can just go to the registration and questionnaire. So for the email recipient contact, you can find it under the add site details, and it you can find it there.
Great. Next question, please. So this seems like a scenario question. Uploaded invoice number under the wrong PO. How can I change that? Flora, over to you.
Yeah, so if you already submitted through the Ariba network, then you can contact your PO owners so they can reject your invoices. But for for example, if they accidentally approve your invoices, you can also request a credit memo to reverse that invoice. And then if you haven't submitted, you can always change it on your Ariba network.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. If I have multiple business lines working with Google, how can you ensure POs are received by the correct contact? Sometimes highly confidential POs are shared with everyone. Flora, over to you.
Yes, so it will be on your system setup to choose who to receive the PO. So if you think your PO are confidential and they would not like to share with anyone, so you can put the person that receiving the email, receiving the POs on the notification, and then limiting the number of recipients on that notification.
So for follow-up question, I guess, so for recipients that are receiving PO notifications, they would get them for all POs with all business lines. You can't like segment it by certain like business areas that people are doing business with, right?
Yeah, I don't think it has the option as of now. Yeah,
Okay.
But that's another feature we can bring to the Ariba team to enhance in the future. Whether we can set up a user group or notification group.
That would be awesome.
I would note that, yeah.
Thanks, Flora. Awesome. So P2P then fixes the issue, but doesn't teach the supplier how to do it themselves. Can P2P provide sessions to share screens and guide a supplier through their issue? I think the short answer is yes. It might be like situational and dependent on the example, but you can definitely request that, and the team can jump on GBCs, especially with enrollment. I think Carl talked about that. That's always an option, as well as enablement. So yes, definitely. And then, like I said, we are trying to do these more general sessions to offer that as well. I know it's a little bit harder on live stream, not one-to-one and customized, but we are trying to approach it from various angles. So yes. Next question, please. If we already have a Ariba Enterprise account, can we also subscribe to an Ariba Standard account, Flora?
So I want to try to understand this question a little bit more better. So 2 scenarios: when you have an enterprise account and then you want to downgrade to standard account. And then for this scenario, you can contact P2P help to escalate. At first, you submit a service request with Ariba, and then if they haven't taken any action, you can submit a ticket to P2P help to downgrade. And then the second scenario, if I understand, you already have one enterprise account, you want to have another standard account. You could do that, but we don't strongly suggest that, because our rule is one tax ID per account, so you don't have to mix or have a multiple account to manage.
Perfect. Thanks, Flora. Next question. Having received this invitation for the training, is the next step to get invited to create profiles for each entity across APAC?
Yeah, I can take that question.
Okay.
So my team member, colleague Victoria, she's working on the Singapore and Malaysia legal profile. So there will be a demo recorded and then shared with suppliers. So you can use that to be more self-serve to set up your legal profile. And then if you are in India, we already have a demo shared with the pilot suppliers, and then we're gonna roll out to more suppliers in a couple of weeks too. So soon you will be receiving those trainings to set up legal profile.
Perfect. Thanks, Flora. Under our workbench, we can see that there are many invoices approved pending for payment. How do we know when the invoice will be paid? Flora.
So it will give you a status on the workbench, but in general rule is your payment day will based on your term. So normally you will receive your payment before your payment date is due.
Okay, perfect. Next question, please. Is that a wrap on our questions? We're going to do a quick check on, so we'll do last call. If there are any more questions, we'll monitor the Q&A. Give it a couple more seconds. And if not, we will give everyone some time back. All right. I don't see any more questions coming through, so I think we're going to call it a day, but we wanted to say thank you all so much for being here, for being engaged with the training and asking some really great questions. Like I said, in terms of next steps, we'll be sending out a recap with the recording and some resources to share that will probably come next week. And then, like Flora said, some suppliers might be receiving additional communications about other initiatives or demos and things of that nature. So just be aware that we are doing a lot of work on our side to really amplify our systems and our tools and make them as good as they can be. So if you have any questions about that, you can definitely reach out, but we'll be in touch. And thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thank
Bye.
you, guys.